Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy.
Hello, my name is Hugo Barrera. I am filling in for our usual host. She couldn't join us today. But nonetheless, welcome to the Tell Us podcast. Today we have another guest speaking about her experiences and how things are going on in her job at a CityMD Urgent Care Center. Please welcome Mirna Gonzales to the podcast.
Hi.
Hi, how did you handle the beginning stages of quarantine?
In the beginning stages of quarantine, everybody pretty much was kind of just freaked out. It was more just like an idea of trying to cope with what's going on so you don't know what to expect while you also have to be seeing patients still at the same time. So it was a little frazzling, but thankfully we got through it. Now we have our protective equipment to get us through it, and it's a little less intimidating and overbearing.
Okay. Speaking about the safety equipment, is your job, to your knowledge, equipped or like well equipped to with this new influx of cases now, for example, that are spreading across our country?
Yeah, we're equipped. We're well equipped, at least in CityMD we are. I know there was a shortage with a bunch of hospitals, but at CityMD we're equipped for it. We have all our PPE. So we all wear gowns. We all have to get to work. The first thing we do is put our gowns on. Of course, we do have limitations to it, so we can't just change our gowns between each patient, but we wear gowns for the day. We do change it every day. We have to wear our regular masks, the disposable ones you guys usually probably see and wear.
The
And
blue ones?
yes,
Okay.
and then and then above that we have to wear a N95 mask, which we get one a day, as well as the gown. So we're limited, but we also have our protective equipment. We also have the face masks, and we also get it's kind of what you guys have seen surgeons probably wear, like the blue netted shoes that looks like what belongs. It looks like a hairnet that people wear. We also get one of those, but
Okay.
it's like a hairnet looking type of thing for your shoe as well. So
So
that's us.
the entire setup, and you guys
Yeah.
get that every day?
Yep.
Oh wow. I know one of my friends have also work in a hospital, not at a city MD, but she works at a hospital. And the amount of health supplies that they have and equipment in general are very limited. So I found it surprising when you said you guys get one each day.
Yeah.
Um, you said you get one blue mask and one N95. You said each day.
Yeah, I know it's surprising because I know there was a shortage in other hospitals, but I guess because of the fact that CityMD is more of an urgent care center, we weren't
Mm.
viewed as a first emergency place you go to. So, of course, a lot of hospitals are overflooded with patients that are at sickly stages. But since we're an urgent care center, it's not like we house these patients and we see them overnight. So we were more able and more equipped to have our protective equipment just to be able to see these patients, because the difference between us and hospitals is that hospitals can house these patients. They can give people like the machines for respiration if they need assistance with that. And if they need to stay overnight, they can do that in a hospital, as opposed to us where we just mostly deal with just diagnosing people and telling them what to do at this point moving forward if they are positive, and if they're negative, they're negative. So that's just how we roll here.
Speaking of positive tests, how do you guys handle that when a client, not a client, sorry, excuse me, a patient tests positive? How do you guys go about that?
The way we deal with positive tests is that we alert the person, but before we do each test, even if it's positive or negative, we have to take down, especially if it could be anyone. It could be a teenager, a kid. If a kid comes with their parent, we have to ask the parent. If a kid just comes just to want to know, before we do the test, we have to write down their employers or their school. If they go to school, we have to do all of that. So if they're
Okay.
positive, the Department of Health takes that record information, and that's how they let a job know or a school know, hey, somebody was positive. So that's how, if you hear from your school or if you hear from your job, oh, somebody was positive, that's why we're closing down, just to clean or just to disinfect or quarantine a certain group of people because they were in close proximity. that's why that happens, and that's how people know, because the Department of Health gets alerted whenever we do a test on anyone. So
I was gonna ask you also, um, has there been a really big amount of people coming in now, or has it steadily been the same, through these last months of the pandemic?
uh, mostly almost all of our cases, I'd say out of 100%, a good 80% are COVID cases. So
Mm, mainly
there's,
people coming in and out of.
yeah, we have to at the end of our day, because since we do close up the place at a certain time instead of like a hospital, since we do have to close up, we have like solely the last 2 hours are exclusive to patients that have no COVID, like no COVID testing. We have to end up just telling other people that they have to go home because we have
So,
to.
sorry to cut you off, but what are your operating hours like?
Operating hours, we work 12 hours a day, every day.
Wow,
Sometimes we have special schedule, but aside from that, that's pretty much our work days.
12
And
hour
that's
work.
actually limited now because we had to limit down the hours. So if it would have been like on another regular day, at least in my site, it would have been more just like 14 to 16 hours. Now we
Wow,
just limited to 12 hours. So
full of just just an ongoing of patient. You see one patient. How, if you had to put a number on it, put it like, how many people do you typically see?
a day, like
Yeah, if you
just
had to put
me.
a number on it,
um,
just you, for example,
um, I'm gonna say for me, it doesn't seem like a big number, but I'd say 15 to 20. But
a
that
day.
is a big number, yeah, a
Okay,
day.
I'm
It doesn't seem like a big number, but it is.
yeah,
So
yeah, because mainly, it's, you got to spend time with the individual patient, get to know like their symptoms, or if they have any, or anything big, I guess I'm assuming, right? Like, there's 15 may seem like a small number to just an average person, but I guess for you, it's a pretty big number. I'm assuming other people in a city MD, though, see more people, right? Would,
oh
or
yeah,
is that a
each of us
similar?
most likely see at least a day in term, because we do have a chart where we can overall see at the end of the day how many patients we saw. I'd say the place itself takes in about 45. My place takes in about like 45 patients a day. So that's pretty much our number each day, where we have a good amount of people come in. It seems like a small number because of just numerically, it looks like it's not much. But when you take a look at each case, everybody has something different going on. Because then most people come in for a test, they always have like a side symptom. They always have something else going on. They always need a work note. There's always something that goes on. So it's like, it's not always a simple test and go type of thing. And then we also have to wait 15 minutes if people are doing rapid COVID testing, which is what a lot of people want now.
And we have to, other people listening in, or viewing this podcast, have to remember that you are a medical scribe, correct? You are, an individual who isn't a doctor, who, it's fair to say, see plenty more people than that. Sorry, it cut off a little bit. What was that?
Yes, I'm a medical
Yeah,
scribe.
medical scribe. How long have you worked at that particular, urgent care center, would you say?
I'd say about a year. And in terms of what you were saying about the whole not being a doctor, right now it's seeming like we are, because that is like one of the major changes we have going on. Because, it's like there's only so many providers you can have to a patient. So now we're just like kind of spread out. So it seems like we're just moving between patients. Patients kind of view us as though we're kind of their doctors. So that's kind of a change in terms of how things used to be as opposed to what
Wow.
they are now. So we kind of are seeing like their doctor slash nurse slash whatever they want to call us, because
Speak.
sometimes doctors can't move on from person to person like that.
Okay, speaking of doctors, and the role being split, um, I think that's a really great point, that you in a sense are viewed upon as doctors, because the main doctors are so busy attending to other patients that there's simply no time, right?
Yeah.
Um, and you spoke briefly about, how things were when you first started. Can you give us more insight on that? Like, how was pre-pandemic with you guys? Like, did you see a lot less people, or
Pre-pandemic was a lot less amount of people, and it was more cases of just like, actual cases going on, because if it's an urgent care center, you have more wounds, lacerations, things to stitch up, fractures, people on crutches, things like that. We're spending more time in the lab in our office than we are with a patient. Usually we spend more time with a patient, looking at their x-ray, maybe what's up, do they have a broken bone, do they have this going on, more time even talking with the doctor about a certain case. Now it's more just like, if we go to tell a doctor what's going on in a certain room, it's just, oh, hey, doc, we have this test going on in this room, and we're going
okay,
to move on to the next room.
okay,
Same
great.
thing.
How I'm just trying to wrap my head around, this. You guys are just amazing at the job you guys do, and people show support, people show love, and I think that's you guys deserve every appreciation for it, because it's a really hard time that the country is under, especially with more cases now rising, actually, which is, I thought by now things would be more under control, but that's not the case. How do you
When you take into consideration things were getting better, I feel no one should have told anyone things were getting better, because as soon as people hear things are getting better, they loosen up.
were you always an individual with, since you work in the healthcare field, um how serious, or let me say, not serious, were you, when you would see people that wouldn't, for example, wear masks, how would you feel towards that, since you work in the healthcare center?
Mask on.
Mask
Literally,
on.
we won't give them until they put a mask on. If they want to get uncomfortable, we do. Oh, that's a different thing. We have security guards now in the place we work. So before, okay, maybe there would have been a security guard in certain locations. You see it more in hospitals, of course, because there's more people, but you typically see it in like in an emergency room now. And like, at least in our locations, there's a security guard everywhere, and they have to keep order, they have to maintain control, because patients like to come in. We cannot have any patients sitting in that waiting room unless they've been called in. So if we're going to
Okay.
have patients at least just in the waiting room, we have to have a maximum of 10 patients sitting, and they have to be all spread out. So we have to have a security guard maintaining a line outside as well as people inside to keep space. If someone's with no
So
mask, they're not going to get attended. They're not going to come in, because
really,
unless something's going on where we need to go out and bring them in for something like life-threatening going on. Because the difference now is we have two different tests. We have a PCR nasal swab test, is what we call it. And the nasal swab is just the test, the regular test you get that you hear about, where they're both nasal swabs that go into your nose. One of them tells you your results in 3 to 5 business days. And
that's
then the other one,
there's one, sorry to cut you off, there's I've heard a lot about, there's different ways that you guys test, correct? There's, I think, a rapid test, and then there's a longer one, a longer is that more effective, or what's the real
there's no
difference?
difference between them. The difference for us, as far as we take it, is that the rapid test we give more to people that require it for like work related purposes, travel. We have a lot of patients who come in saying they have to travel somewhere else and they want to get the test done and they need the results like stat.
Quick,
So mhm,
quick, right?
yeah, they need it, and we give it to them in 15 minutes. So
Wow.
those are the main patients that we have staying like a maximum of 20 minutes. Every other patient is more just like, okay, we get your info, we get all this set up. Do you have any symptoms? Do you feel any different weird type of way, fever, cough, anything throat related? Because now what we also have to take into account is the season. We're going into flu season. So
Yeah.
it's getting even harder, because now we have flu season coming on, and we also have people with symptoms that are related. All these symptoms are like related to each other. So now we don't know if you have a flu, strep throat, or just actual COVID. So it's kind of just balancing everything out right now, but
you,
it's getting bad. So
you guys are most likely going to see more people coming in, correct? Like, I have some symptoms, and yeah, it might be COVID, it might not, like you said, but what happens in the case that people don't follow these protocols, these safety procedures that you guys have? What have you experienced something like that, or what are the protocols you guys have in place?
We have had patients where they get a little irritable because, of course, people are waiting outside for a while. Some people just don't seem to comprehend the space that we need to take, because we do also have, at least in our location, the security guard is really super nice. He goes out, he explains it to people. He says, listen, I can't have you come in because we need to keep space, we need to keep distance. As far as people, if people keep going into the rooms, I keep sending you in. Some people are irritable. There are patients, almost every day you'll find a patient that's irritable. If they get irritable, they do tend to follow the procedure, because at that point they've waited such a long time just to be denied entrance because they're just uncomfortable.
Okay.
But we don't get it that much, but we have had the rare occasion where it's like you have to get EMTs involved or policemen involved.
You guys already put yourselves in enough danger to then have to deal with a person that doesn't want to comply to the safety procedures.
Yeah.